You find different animals in the Antarctic than you do around the rest of the world often, because the Antarctic has been isolated from the rest of the world by the Antarctic circumpolar current for thousands and thousands of years. So you still get sea stars and you still get sea urchins and things like that, but they're different species and they look different to what you would find if you just went diving off the New Zealand coast. They have to cope with extremely cold water. They've evolved and adapted over a very, very long time to be able to cope with this. So, for example, in the Ross Sea down near Scott Base, the seawater down there is minus 1.9 degrees Celsius pretty much all year round, and that's pretty jolly cold. So that means that the animals down there are not very active. If you just set up a camera and sat and watched, you'd have to be recording for a very long time before you actually saw anything move. And also to cope with that, the animals don't breathe very quickly. They've slowed their metabolism right down so that they only expend the energy that they need to expend to be able to feed and reproduce and grow. A lot of the animals in Antarctica live for a really long time as well. So for example, we have been studying scallops, which live for up to 80 years. Some other shellfish that live for close to 40 years. And they often can get really huge as well. So you can find, if you go down quite deep, you can find sponges the size of minis, things like that, pretty amazing. For much of the year, the Ross Sea is covered by a very thick layer of ice, and that's going to affect how much light can get through the ice to the animals below. So you know that plants need light to be able to grow, and you get phytoplankton living in the water column, and you get little plants growing on the sand, and that's a really important food source for the animals that live down there. And also you get lots of ice underneath lots of algae underneath the ice. So that's also a really important food source as it settles down to the seafloor. There's an awful lot that we still need to learn about these coastal communities, and in fact the whole of the Ross Sea seafloor communities and how they work. I mean, people have been and taken samples in different areas. So we know a little bit about what's found in places that have been sampled, but we really don't know how they work. So what's the role of a particular animal in the ecosystem? So if you took a shellfish out, for example, if for some reason the shellfish became extinct, then what are the knock-on effects for the rest of the community? So that's one thing that we really need to be able to understand properly if we're going to be able to predict how they might respond to change. So how they might respond to climate change, how they might respond to ocean acidification.